I'm hopeful someone else is joining us. It
There
feels
was
like an enormous task for just two of us.
the handout. I have the handouts here. This is handout the 5A3.
No, so we're going to be working because the 5A3 was just the earlier version of the recommendations. So
Okay.
now we're looking at the one Adam just synthesized from our lunch survey.
Oh, we are. The one
Yeah.
he sent.
Yep. The brand new one that we haven't had a chance to look at yet.
Okay.
So these are the ones we did right before lunch.
Okay. And we are focusing on, see, I think I didn't track what we were supposed to do exactly. So we are
So
focusing on which ones?
all of them. So we have to look through all 10 of them and we have to decide, are they focused, streamlined, and actionable? And if
Oh,
not, like how do we need to massage them or change them, or do we recommend to delete them entirely or change them, right?
mhm,
So that they
mhm.
are
For all
based
10.
on the feedback
Okay.
here. Does
All
that come?
right. Well,
So
here,
maybe our third person decided they didn't like us and they want to go to a different group.
they may have, you're right, they may have moved to a different group.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, or maybe they had to hop off. I don't remember.
They might be using the restroom. You could probably just go ahead and get started. I think you guys are already recording, so.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Here we
Well, do
go.
you want to kind of, since we're both looking at this for the first time right now, do you just want to go through it together?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm looking at page 3 of the handout. Well, I guess the bottom of page 2. So this was the recommendation about local score. So this is the one that actually talks about local scoring, right?
Okay. Wait. One, two, three.
It's at the bottom of page 2 in the charts,
Oh, the
top of,
recommendation one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just reading the comments underneath. The question about whether how it's monitored for quality, I think, is addressed later.
hmm
Hmm.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, this recommendation doesn't have any of the this is important because components. So we might want to
hmm
circle back at some point and add those, right?
hmm
Um, I'll be full disclosure. I'm the one that strongly opposes this one, so I'm having a little bit of trouble
Okay.
being completely
But
open in terms of updating or modifying it.
yeah, but it's important. You don't have to be. I think that your perspective is part of what it's important to include that in here and consider. Are you saying that,
I just strongly believe 100% of it should be done in the school where the students are at.
yeah,
But I also strongly believe it should be embedded in the coursework. So it's just grading another assignment. And if
yes.
we trust the instructor to grade all the other assignments, I
Yep.
don't understand why we wouldn't trust them to grade this one. They're giving feedback all the time. And so I feel like it undermines the
Mm,
instructors at the universities
yeah.
in the position
I
that they
agree
were
with
hired
you.
into. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you and for the same reasons. Like if it's going to be actually embedded in the coursework, then of course the instructor who teaches that coursework, they already grade their assignments. Why wouldn't they grade this assignment? Um, and I think to your point, like it is also different if um, we're saying faculty member teacher class and now grade these 50
Which
TPA.
I don't agree with, right? I
Yeah.
don't agree
Yeah.
that someone should have to grade someone else's classwork.
Yeah.
You assign it, you grade it, give immediate feedback. And I feel like if we just did that, the TPA wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
It's just part of the class.
Yeah. But I think when I like when we read the comments, I think the way the assessments currently stand,
Hmm.
they're not they're submitting them to somewhere else. It's not actually even though the content is embedded. I mean, for us, the content is embedded, but we're preparing them. They're helping them to prepare something that we don't score. We're giving so it does actually operate now as an additional tasks on
Right.
top of coursework. And so I think the dilemma for me is if it's going to continue to look like that,
But
then
we already said it won't.
we recommended that it won't,
Well,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if we can, I mean, I don't know if this is allowed, but I
No.
wonder if there's a way to write this in such a way that says we're assuming that these are actually uh, assignments that are a part of coursework. And if that is the case, then 100% should be local scored. And it should not just local scored, it should be scored by the instructor. And, or, I mean, it could be a mentor teacher could participate or something of that nature too. I just, that makes sense to me.
Interesting to me, though, because I don't think a mentor teacher has any concept of how,
Oh, uh-huh.
which is a problem, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but I don't think, I mean, so as a classroom teacher who serves in the past as a
yeah.
mentor, our district hasn't had any student teachers for a long time now. But
Hmm.
in the past, now I happen to be one of the original authors of the TPA, so I knew
Uh-huh.
it, but no one else knew it. And
Right.
people who are likely to be mentor teachers didn't take the TPA, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They
I just
know they know nothing.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking about is like if we imagine this to look vastly different. So, like, we have a current assessment that our candidates, it's called the Older Resident Evaluation. And it
Okay.
is an assessment where the mentor teacher, our clinical faculty member, and the school site administrators all sit down and complete. Well, they don't complete it. Really, the mentor teacher and the clinical faculty member do most of the completing, but they document a resident's progress along the TPEs. So anyways, that is not the TPA. But if we thought about like, well, shoot, could this be a part of could this be the TPA? Because we're already having candidates document, or I'm sorry, demonstrate success on the TPEs through this assessment, then the mentor teacher is going to have the most information about whether or not a candidate is actually doing that thing in the classroom. That's not the entirety of the TPE. So, I mean, it's just interesting because I think no, as it stands, the mentor teacher probably doesn't have enough information. But if we reimagine this thing to be whatever, and I think that's part of what the trickiness is, we don't know what that reimagining might be. But if we assume it looks similar to what it does now, then
Which,
uh,
and you're right, that makes it really hard because the commission would have to adopt both the embedding and the assessing component, right? And if they
yeah.
did that, then it would be fairly easy. But if they don't adopt the embedding, then I understand the
Mhm.
problem with 100%, right?
Right, exactly.
And so, but I don't want to make a recommendation that misses the opportunity for it to be
Right.
100%. 100% because we're assuming it may or may not happen.
Can we write? I wonder if we can just add that to the language, like assuming that these tasks will be authentically and actually embedded in the program's coursework. You know, it is expected that 100% or that all of these assessments and associated assignments will be scored by locally scored or scored by the faculty member.
Now, I would say yes. I
Uh-huh.
am also going to say I don't think there's going to be 100% buy-in from our work group.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, I don't understand why that would be hard, but there's been so much pushback every single time. It can't be 100%. And I'm thinking, I don't understand if you're
I,
going,
I I really do think that it's a difference between um, understanding what that 100% entails. Because I also am one of the people who like if the exams look how they look now, that
oh,
would be really like I would say no.
yeah.
Like please don't do that to me.
Yeah. No, and I don't disagree with you. I think
Yeah.
that would be terrible.
So I
But
wonder if that's like I wonder if the disagreement isn't about the idea that faculty should grade assignments, but I wonder if the disagreement is really about understanding the nature of the assessment and what that requirement would require of programs, and maybe that really is the pushback because many of the folks that I've heard from, the folks who say like they're kind of doing this already, so anyhow maybe some.
I mean, I just if I and I've adjuncted before, but
Yeah,
I'm not now. I would be offended if someone was saying I wasn't qualified to assess my students' work
yeah,
and determine whether or not they are meeting the TPEs. I would be really offended
yeah,
because that's literally the entire job.
yep,
And if we're giving people tenure and they're doing the work, I
yeah,
don't understand why we don't think that they
yeah,
qualified. And of course, I mean, we're all going to come with biases. That's never going to not be there.
that's
And if
right.
there needs to be some training and inter-rater reliability, that's fine with me. But I think we should trust the people who are there
Yeah,
and who have the opportunity to give actual formative feedback to
right,
impact change, right?
yep. Look, I agree with you, but I did score PAX, and that was not how it happened. It was a separate like I think we're arguing different.
Yeah. No, I agree. And if I had gone through that experience, I would not want to do it too.
Yeah,
Right. But if we're really reimagining it as it's just an assignment in my class,
yep,
that's your job is to grade it.
yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So how do we
What do we do?
how do we do this?
How do we do this?
Let me look back. Did we get the thing from Juliet? We did.
Okay.
Okay.
So she,
Here's our slideshow. Okay. So basically what we have is every single one of these recommendations is just on a purple slide. Do you see those?
is it focused area 4 initial recommendation? That
Yep.
one? Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Um, and I don't, our job was to say, is it focused? Is it streamlined and directly actionable? So we maybe are not charged with making changes to the language of it, unless it violates one of those three things.
Well, I think we're supposed to look at the feedback that we received and, see is there anything
Okay.
we need to do?
Well,
Uh,
I wonder if this gets at like what we're discussing gets at the idea of whether it's focused. Maybe it's not focused enough. Maybe we're not adding as much context. Like what I think when we wrote this, we were assuming what you're saying to be true, which is that the spirit was supposed to assume that these would be assignments in coursework. I think that's the spirit or maybe not.
I
It's hard to tell. Yeah.
it's hard to, I mean, I was sitting in this work subcommittee group, so
Yeah.
you were too.
Yeah, we both were.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
It
But
was great conversation, but I don't think we ever really talked about whether it was
yeah.
assignments in
Yeah.
or, I mean, it was a long conversation, but and I mean, I definitely sensed everybody's fears, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I get the increased workload.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you replace a current assignment with the TPA task
Yep.
and you give it a grade, it's really not an increase.
Yes.
But then you're not grading someone else's content,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Until it gets to the resubmissions, which we'll talk about
Yep.
next.
So I mean, I wonder if there's an opportunity to I to not uh to define both the word local and the word scoring, because I think we started to define local, although I might argue that that definition of local is incomplete because it doesn't actually include someone with expertise in that content area. And I think what you and I are thinking is that it should actually be the faculty member. It should be the person who's teaching the class or in charge of that area of their work. And so I think there's like,
Well, yeah.
mhm,
And it's scary to me when I look at the definition of local scoring because I, on a personal level, don't agree
uh-huh,
with it, the way that it's
uh-huh,
written. I don't think it's just anybody who's in
yes,
proximity. I don't. I mean,
yep,
I don't think you should be able to pass off
yes,
scoring assignment to a TA, right?
yep,
I think it should be you who taught the content,
yeah. And this
wherever
is
your program decides to put it, right?
unless, so this is the other piece to that. I think unless if the assessment stayed as is, I
Well,
could see saying, oh, all of the grad students who work for my program are going to go get trained to, or all of the supervisors or all of the, but if we are reimagining this to actually be embedded in the ways that I think you and I are thinking about, then I think it makes sense for the faculty member, the one who holds the expertise in that area, who's giving the feedback along the way, who knows this student, in their development most intimately, or I think that makes the most sense. So I agree with you that I think the definition is a little um,
wonky.
it is, and I think just the difference between like the reimagining and understanding like what is it that we're actually talking about when we mean the assessment, like what do we envision that it looks like, and then I think also what do we mean by scoring, I think is another question. If we're just talking about grading the assignment in my class and that's local scoring, cool. If you're talking about I have 50 assignment or 50 full TPEs that I had nothing to do with that I now have to score, that's different, right? And so I think
Yeah. And I don't advocate for, I actually think that's not great. I mean, well, what I would argue is that might as well be done by Pearson because you don't know those kids any more than,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Different. I'm talking about when it's your own students and
yeah,
your,
yeah,
which is the work we're asking these candidates to do once they get into the classroom, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Submit
yep,
student workout. I mean, other than the annual state testing, but that again, all
yep,
that does is give feedback to the school. It does
mm-hmm,
not impact the individual kid, right? Whereas
mm-hmm,
this keeps people from the profession.
yep,
If
okay,
it, okay, how do we,
how do we
okay, so let's look at it. The RDI TPA work group recommends that TPTs, which by the way, it's not TPTs, right? It's teacher preparation programs. It should be T.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, let's fix that. Should engage in a method of local scoring that aligns to program improvement needs and candidate needs for support. The work group recommends there be some flexibility in what local scoring looks like as long as it meets criteria for local scoring that includes collaboration and training and scoring, scoring common sets of work, meeting inter-rater reliability standards set by the CTC, and scorer training. Oh, see, to me, I'm completely opposed to this, so this is tricky.
Well, because I think the assumption that I see behind this language, and that I mean, that's how I was operating too, is that the assessment looks and operates the way it currently does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, this adds workload.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only are you preparing them for a TPA, now you're having to sit down and do all of this additional scoring. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish we could just rewrite it to say you score the part that you teach.
Well, I mean,
If we wrote something like, well, we're gonna get tomatoes thrown at us. Um, I mean, if we wrote
you
something like assuming, I mean, which is fine. I mean, maybe we do that. Maybe we make a recommendation 1A for consideration and do a whole different slide that says something like the RDI TPA work group recommends.
yeah, I think let's do that. Let's do another slide. It's just I think what surfaced from our conversation is people could be thinking about the TPA in a very different way and like what constitutes or what would increase workload for faculty. And so you and I can say, we just assumed this new version, this different format would be hello.
Hi, is it just the two of you?
It
It
is.
is. Somebody else went somewhere. We don't
I
know.
think it was, oh, okay. Yeah.
We're okay. We're good.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're sort of good. We're
Yeah.
we're gonna rewrite recommendation 1 for
Go
consideration
for
from
it.
the group, but I don't know if it's gonna be well received. But
Well, go for it. Give it a try.
we're on something. We're trying.
We're gonna
I
try
like
something.
it.
See how it
I like
goes.
it.
All right. Shayna, are you looking at the doc on the side? Okay.
I'm looking at the slideshow. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna start erasing the one that I wrote for consideration.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, okay. So
I think it would be interesting to, or maybe useful to say, here are our assumptions. Like, if this is true
okay.
and we believe that,
Will be embedded throughout the credential program.
mhm. And I think what we mean by embedded is we mean that the the assessment, the parts of the assessment will be it will be the assessments from the course. Like I think like I currently think that we embed ours, but we don't. I mean, we're not actually scoring the pieces. We're just embedding the content. And I think what you and I are imagining is that the actual assessment is the content of the course and the assessment of the course, like or an assessment for the course. And I think that
Right. It would just be right? It's not the totality of a course. A course is so much more complex,
right.
right? But if you have one assignment is this piece that we've been building up to,
Yep.
you turn it in. I mean, I'm almost thinking about, the first component where you're just collecting a lot of demographic information and kind of synthesizing what that means and how it'll apply. I mean, if you do that and then you turn it into the person who's your instructor,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, I know when I was at Laverne, we had people do that. They brought it to us and we gave feedback on it, but it wasn't the TPA one, right?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's, I think, where the duplicity comes in. Why do I have to do it again for the TPA? When I showed my teacher I can do it,
Yep.
And why is that score not valid, right?
Right. Yep. And I had a similar experience. We had candidates turn in something very similar. And then when the TPA time came up, we said, just take what you did there and put it here. Uh-huh.
But that seems so silly. And I can see why candidates say it's not fair and I'm having to pay for it, right? That's
Hmm.
frustrating. Really frustrating. Okay, I don't know. I wrote random
Okay,
sentences.
let's see. Let's see.
What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right.
Is there a nicer way to say it? Prettier way? I don't know.
um, maybe specifying, let's see.
Maybe both alone. Have
What's
fun.
that? Thank you. Like if we said here, hmm, does that
Yeah. No,
does
I
that
think it's great.
clarify? Okay, so the RDI to TPA will be embedded. The TPA assignments will be the course assignments throughout the credential program. The work group recommends that faculty and or instructors score the assessment components that are embedded in their course. If I say, if the RDI work group assumes that the TPA will be embedded throughout the credential program, the work group recommends that faculty and instructors score the assignment components that are embedded in their course.
Okay, what do you think about the rest of it now?
Yep. And I tweaked a little of the language up top to see
I
what
saw that. Yeah, it looks great.
okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think part of what I get tripped up on is like some of the things that we're recommending, I would like in my mind, I have these questions like what assumptions are we holding? What are the sort of what's the sort of spirit of this, the intention behind this thing? Like, what is it that we're hoping to achieve? Why are we doing this? And then it's like, what are the intended and unintended consequences of this? And like, is this the best decision? And I think that's that sort of process sometimes I'm trying to go through in my mind, but sometimes we sort of like skip the assumptions and go to the,
Hmm.
and it's hard because of the limited time and the number of
Yeah, it is. I mean,
voices.
to be honest with you, if we were to get this right here as the only thing that was the outcome, I think it would improve the process significantly for everyone,
I
both
mean,
the programs and the candidates themselves.
yep.
I mean, to me, I would feel like that's all I would need. I don't know if we'll get it past the committee at all,
Yeah.
but it's worth a try, maybe. I think, and I mean, I think it's focused, I think it's streamlined, and I think it's directly actionable.
I think so too. And I think what's nice is, I mean, I don't know if this is nice, but we're taking the other recommendation, the one that we talked about and worked on earlier this morning, and we're saying we think that there are some, how do we, I'm trying to think of how to communicate this. Like how do we go from there to this next slide? And I think what we noticed is we were unclear about what the assessment would look like or what embedding might mean. And therefore, it led us to try to create a scenario in which embedding and to define what embedding would look like. Or I'm fumbling here. Tell me, feel free to butt in. Like, how do we get from the first slide to this? What's a rationale?
I think the first slide, we didn't necessarily assume that the TPA itself was embedded. So
Mm-hmm.
we're envisioning it still as an exit ticket, right? From the
Mm-hmm.
program. But if we reimagine it to be embedded like our embedded language before, it gives
Yes.
us a little more flexibility to rethink how it can be scored.
Yep.
And if
I,
we, I mean, I think if we just kind of keep honing in on, if we just think about it as one more assignment or a replaced assignment would be even better, in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to take effort on the part of programs, right? They're going to have to reimagine and resort, um, because the TPA can't just be at the end afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But we've already decided that in our other recommendations.
Right.
So I think that's, I mean, I think if you talk about it like that, I think it'll make sense. I don't know that people will agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think so. And I do think that some of the components of the previous slide 4, still hold. Like we would hope that there'd be some sort of collaboration and training and inter-rater reliability. Like we do want to make sure that instructors
Of course.
are aligned in what they're looking at and how they're scoring. So I mean, I'm not sure how that would happen, but it could happen in bigger institutions if there are multiple people teaching the same course or the same content. That could happen. And if not, maybe there's a mechanism to have cross-institutional conversations that I mean, quite honestly, might be really fruitful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do you think we should lift that component so it doesn't get lost and people don't get worried about that part?
maybe so. Let's add it.
Just kind of copy the part
Mhm.
that says collaboration, blah, 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 and
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
lift it and put it in.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We'll see. We can prepare for the tomatoes. Oh, just duck.
I mean, I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Let's see what happens. I have no idea what to expect. Nothing good, I don't think, but that's okay. I
See.
remain hopeful. Uh, okay, let's go to number 2.
Okay.
Okay, so the feedback we got on number two. Okay, so two people were neutral, about five people were supportive, and then everyone else was strongly support.
Okay. I feel, I mean, is it is it focus? The RDI work group recommends this. I think what's missing, I mean, in one sense it feels focused, but on the other hand, there's a lot left to interpretation still. So like I don't know. The first part of it, the inter-rater reliability standards feels clear and focused. The second piece, double score their candidates at TPA submissions. I have participated in a process with PAC that was like this. I mean,
Okay.
we double scored a portion of our submission. So I understand what that could look like. Double score their candidates.
My understanding would be you would do it and I would do it and we would compare,
Right. And it should be aligned. And if it were strongly different or very different, then we get another person.
right?
Um,
And that's all that says to me.
yep. hmm I mean, if if we assumed or based on our other slide that this was an assignment and I didn't pass a person, do I want someone else to then come back and say, no, 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 they actually passed?
I mean, I wouldn't like that, but to me,
hmm
I feel like people should be able to not pass
Yeah.
and have to go back and redo that component, right? I mean, that happens all the time in our courses.
Yep.
Turn an assignment in, you didn't work hard enough on it. Here's your F, take it back, work on it.
Yep.
Let's redo it,
Yep.
right?
Agreed.
So, but then when they resubmit, I would actually argue I should be the one to just rescore it
Yep.
because it's calling into question, I think, the scorer's integrity if you're saying another person has to come in.
hmm See, this is another, I really, this is another one where I think if we assume that it's going to look the way it currently looks, then I get this. But if we're going to reimagine it, then this is probably not necessary.
I agree. I agree. So
Unless,
step one, I strongly feel we have to keep this one.
yeah,
But if not, because if we're keeping one, because you're talking about the totality of it, then I
yep,
do think the institution needs to take responsibility for the non-passers
yep,
and figure out why they're not passing and help them,
yep,
right? And this is a way to force them to have to help them.
yep,
And it's an incentive to get them to the pass so that
yep,
they come back and you have to do that, right? And
yep,
so
hmm
again, I strongly believe we would need to keep this. And
hmm
I hear one of the comments saying we should rework the bottom two bullet points, but although I'm not sure how we would. But I
hmm
don't think it would be necessary if you were just grading the work in your course.
right.
And it was formative because if they didn't do well, you sent them back to keep doing it. And you gave
Now,
specific feedback, right?
I think so. I mean, I can imagine a case, we don't get this often, but sometimes it happens, where a student says, this faculty member is unfair and they're targeting me and nothing I do is going to pass.
Yeah.
Then I could sort of see, I mean, we have petitions that we've set up for those kinds of things. So I could see a world in which there is someone who says, this is preventing me from getting my credential. It is the faculty member who's targeting me, and I want a pathway or an avenue to have someone else score this work. So maybe there's a process that could be created for that. and we can get someone at another institution to take a look or something. I'm not sure, but I think
Yeah.
it, I don't know that that would be a frequent issue, but it could come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think if we just, yes, I think assuming the first recommendation stays without our changed stuff, then I think this makes sense the way it is.
So let's say, assuming we keep Reg 1.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And I do think, I mean, it is, it is focused, it is streamlined, it is actionable.
I think we should add something. I do too. Um, the one thing that I feel a little disappointed in is none of this talks about the actual candidate. It's talking about
Okay.
how it leads to program improvement,
Oh,
right?
in the bullets at the bottom, the two.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if at the very bottom we could write this supports candidates by or something like that.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Um, this supports candidates by ensuring the scorers
Mm-hmm.
are aware of, how would we say that?
What are you thinking?
The are aware and understand the context and environments or classroom environments that the assessments were part of in.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
maybe the relevant
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
context
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, of the assessment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is that enough to be
Let's
clear?
see. I think so. I think it does that, right? That if I am having to meet these standards, and if I am, I don't know, engaged in double scoring, then I will better understand my candidate's situation, context, etc. I will also um, be able to align my feedback throughout the term with expectations on the assessment. So the candidate gets the benefit of an instructor who not only is scoring the assessment, but also designing the course so that there's alignment between the formative feedback and the summative assessment.
Okay, so and ensures
Mm-hmm.
alignment
Mm-hmm.
between formative feedback
Yeah.
and the context.
Mm-hmm. Or
Is that
the
what?
yes, and the assessment, or the expectations of the assessment. I mean, because right now we have folks who are teaching courses, and they're giving feedback on candidates in terms of the assessments in their course. That may or may not align with the assessment. But if I have to be trained and I'm a scorer, then even if we didn't sort of embed in the way that you and I imagine it, even if we didn't do that, if we just made sure that people were calibrated and they'd gone through training, then at least my course content would align with whatever the assessment is asking.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's marinate on that and move to three.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. I mean,
Okay,
should we also put a little note somewhere saying that, and if we assume that the assessment is just another assignment, this is, it's unlikely that we actually need this.
yeah, let's put it. If we assume
Mm-hmm.
the TPA is an embedded assignment,
Mm-hmm.
this would be unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ah, I can't see what I'm writing. This is really, all the different pieces are a little tricky. Okay.
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 We're rocking and rolling. How much time do we have?
She said 90 minutes, but I didn't pay attention to when we went in the room. So,
Okay. All right.
Juliet just clarified in another room I was in. Sorry.
oh, fantastic. Thanks,
So
Heather.
she said to come back between 3:15 and 3:30.
Hmm.
Another
Okay.
group just asked the same question because I also heard 90 minutes but did not pay attention to the time that you all started.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. So we have 45 minutes to an hour. Fantastic.
We're rocking and rolling. All right.
I love it. Okay, recommendation 3 is the one about funding. So this one got all kinds of strange responses.
Yeah.
So it's about 55% of support. No, it's about 33% support and 42% neutral because people I don't think know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of people opposing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, everyone's wanting more feasibility.
Oh wait, I don't see the. Oh, I do see it. I see it.
It's
Yep.
up at, yeah, it's like a tiny bit up at the top and then,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I get it. I just keep going back to if faculty is just grading their assignments, there is
Mm-hmm.
no additional cost.
Yep.
And the CTC maintains the assessment itself
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing ed TPA. If it's all the Cal TPA and it's divided into several different
Mm-hmm.
tasks, that
Mm-hmm.
then the university or programs, intern programs, what have you, can embed those into their various courses,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't cost any more money.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not paying millions of dollars to an outside corporation.
Yep. I mean, the only cost I could potentially see is maybe the cost of training, like the time. If people have to be trained, I mean, they should continue to update that training every so often. So maybe there's a cost associated there, whether that's like paying the facilitators or like I'm not sure about that part. But I again, Mandy, I don't think that's what people were thinking when they responded. They're thinking if you're going to require that all these people are doing this grading or this assessing, then where's that money going to come from? So, I mean, I think based on I think it's not focused enough.
No.
So I think that is it's not focused. I don't think it's streamlined.
Well, and I mean, to be quite frank, I don't think the CTC would take this recommendation because I don't think in the current climate with the budget, they're going to turn around and
Yeah. Yeah. And
ask for
someone
funding,
said that. Yeah.
right? So that,
Yes.
I mean, that's part of the piece that I worry about. But I don't think it's fair to candidates to just add it to their
Mm-hmm.
program cost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's helpful. It
Mm-hmm.
is helpful because if you add it, then they can use their grants to pay for it, right? Um,
Okay, so this is saying funding be provided from the state to programs to allow for faculty. So I wonder if we can say if there are additional costs associated with local scoring, uh, something like fun. Mhm.
um,
I mean, I think it's wise to say someone needs to account for or consider any additional costs. I hesitate to say any. I mean, we could justify anything as an additional cost, but I mean, if there's some unintended cost that comes out of this, then like, sure, let's make sure that programs feel supported in being able to engage in this. And
Ah, okay. So additional costs related to inter-rater reliability,
mhm,
um, scoring resubmissions,
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean that could happen. Like if it got to a place where something needed to be rescored,
or calibration training.
maybe so. Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. I think we would have to go back up here. The RDI TPA work group recommends that additional costs related to all those things um, be provided through funding from the state, period, right?
I mean, that sounds wonderful. To your point earlier about whether or not it's feasible, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know. I mean,
I
and
mean, at least it acknowledges, though, that there might be some additional costs and the CTC needs to grapple with where is it going to come from,
yeah, I like that.
right?
Yeah.
So this recommendation is necessary because the candidates should not be required to shoulder
Yes.
the entire financial burden.
Yep.
I think that's pretty straightforward, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then it's intended to address this by ensuring adequate funding
Mm-hmm.
is available
Mm-hmm.
to support both candidates and programs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Boom.
And I would argue it might not be feasible, but at least if we push it out to the CTC, it keeps them mindful of the costs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I don't,
I'm with
I
it.
don't, I don't think we should just make it go away because it's not feasible yet,
Yes. Right.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
You know how much easier this is when it's just two people talking?
Yeah. I know. It's
It's
tricky.
hard when I mean, it's important, but
Yeah.
it can be challenging.
I agree. Let's see. Are
Okay.
you on four?
I'm on 4.
Okay. I'm here too.
Okay, this had strong support across the board. Um, oh, and I liked comment 1. Did you see that where it said change and or to just and?
Just and okay. Calibration and oh, okay. Okay.
I liked that. Do you like that?
Yeah.
And I think do you see the comment where it says we need the process to be a strong one so that the schools I like that. I feel like that could be part of the rationale,
Oh, that's nice.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, someone was saying they felt like this was embedded in another one earlier and is unnecessary here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think um, what I was thinking about initially was the first one, because we do have in the first recommendation calibration, training, scoring, iterator reliability. We have that there. Um, Whether it's in the one that we wrote as a consideration or the original first one, that stuff is there. But I could go either way on leaving it as its own standalone to reinforce the importance of this.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm, this is, I don't know if this is helpful at all, but like, I'm imagining some potentially really powerful work. Like if all of the institutions, if all of our faculty, um, are thinking similarly about the ways in which we're scoring these assessments and there's collaboration and I can see cross institutional collaboration. So anyways, I don't know if that's just sort of me dreaming up some big dream, but it does seem like this process could really lead to something that strengthens all of our programs.
I agree with that. And I think it would be great. That would be an intended outcome that would be
Mm-hmm.
positive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be painful in the process for those institutions that are not doing well,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's critical in order to improve outcomes for everybody,
Right.
both institutions and candidates, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I'm not on the implementation side of this, like having to enforce this, but but I can imagine a change management process where maybe it's incremental.
Yeah. And good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the long run.
I think so.
Okay. Do you like
But
the way that's?
I think we can leave it. And hi, Kate.
Oh, hi.
Hey, we finished early, and so Juliet said
Yeah.
maybe in on a group, and so I'm just here to like help if you need me. If not, I picked people I like, so I'm here.
Welcome. So glad you're here.
That was the
We're
logic behind that.
we're kind of plowing through slowly here. We've made it through 4, and we're heading into number 5 right now, if that makes sense. And it was on the new handout because it's the stuff we did this morning. So just to kind of catch you up, because it'll impact what we're doing as we go along. We left 1 as it was, and we created a new one. So if you open the slides that Juliet had posted, are you on that? If you look at slide 5, that's our new dream for to replace slide 4, but we're not sure if we're going to get buy-in or not. So we were really struggling with the first one where it was a portion of the TPA being scored locally. And as we were discussing, realized it was built on the assumption that the TPA wouldn't have changed. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we go back to the embedding component and we remember that we made recommendations that it should be embedded in the programs and be assignments that are given by the course instructors, then it makes sense that the people who are assigning the assessment component in their course would be giving feedback and would be giving the score. And so it kind of re-explains local scoring. And Shayna's going to do an amazing job of trying to sell slide 5 to the work group.
No, this is the courageous change that we need. I'm
Yeah.
so thankful you guys
Yeah.
just made it explicit and you
Yeah.
weren't wishy-washy. Because the poll during lunch, I was like, this is nothing. Because when it's everything, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys made that choice. This like
So
makes
you'll
me
jump in and
hopeful.
and support it too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Wow, you guys are geniuses. This is
Go.
amazing.
Great, nice.
Nice. Are they worried that the validity, are you worried validity people will have words about
Also,
validity?
so we just made recommendation for a little more explicit, although there's
Nice.
probably opportunity to be even better there. But specifically calling out,
The auditing and calibration.
yeah,
Perfect. That's KISS. So you can tell them
okay,
wait till number 4 because that's literally what
'cause
I did.
that's an important component. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. You
Okay. So now
guys,
it's
that
all
was so
caught up.
nice.
That's
Mhm.
where we're at. So now we're on 5.
Do you think you can be back in the work group by or 3:15?
I maybe.
Okay.
We will work towards that.
That's our
I
goal.
love it. I love it.
All right, let's see.
Okay. So 5 got a lot of strong support, some
Mhm.
just support, and then 1 or 2 neutrals, and that's it. Um, the feedback. Ooh, there's some good, although this one's pretty wordy already. There's some kind of nice words in the recommendations that we could add to the reasons why. Oh, I like the whole address disproportionate candidate experience.
Yeah, I like that too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think we could actually
Hmm.
lift what we have written and put this instead. What do you think?
Understood. Finder. So, what? Uh, the piece that's not in the comment is identifying barriers and necessary resources, which I think mirrors the conversation almost that we had about the funding recommendation. So very similar, because funding is a resource.
Mm-hmm.
So, and supports to engage in local scoring. And I don't like the explore ways to incentivize, just the explore because it's just so open. So that is not streamlined or focused.
Oh, where
Yeah,
is that?
that's in the second line where it says explore ways to incentivize programs.
Okay.
Unless I know that some of the recommendations have been create a task force to explore da da da. Like I can see that, but that's not it's not focused.
Let's just take that out.
Okay,
Are you
okay.
good with that? I'm just gonna do it.
I'll do it.
Okay. And then we don't need any of this part either. I get what they were going for there
Mm,
was to encourage people to do it, right?
yes. Yep.
But you're right, it's not streamlined I mean,
And if it's mandated, you don't have to incentivize it. It's mandated.
that's the incentive.
That's the
The rules.
These are the rules, yeah. Um, mm,
Oh, see, I think this is kind of redundant now then too, right? I'm
mhm.
wondering if we could lift some of what's up in the top of 5 and put it back with 4. Although that might muddy down 4 and maybe that's not a good idea.
I hear you though, because I think I recommend levels. What about
Or, ooh, what if we put this up with the funding one?
that's what I was looking at too. Hmm.
Great minds think alike.
Hmm. Because it's about resources. It's identify what are the barriers and how to mitigate those barriers by providing the necessary resources that programs need. That's what both 3 and the first part of that number
5 is really
Five.
talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Seems to me.
And then we could lift that piece that talks about the disproportionate candidate experience and opportunities for systemic improvement and put that up there too, I think.
As a part of the resource one,
Yeah.
say more about the connection there. I'm having a hard time Eric, sort of understanding that comment as it relates to the resource piece.
I think it's the barrier component.
The barriers to local scoring.
No, well, is this talking about barriers to local scoring or is it talking about barriers for the entire TPA? I think that's what I was assuming with that comment, but maybe.
Oh. Oh, I see. I think it's saying both, right?
Hmm.
Like, what are the barriers to local scoring? Maybe recommend it.
Works to identify barriers and necessary resources and supports to enable programs to engage in local scoring. Oh, no, but it's really talking about local scoring.
And the comment. Oh, what does that add for us? So, the comment is adding maybe a rationale for why this local scoring is important because it will enable programs to better understand disproportionate pass rates. Is that what? That's what they're saying. They're saying local scoring is a way to look at student work and understand disproportionality. That's what the comment is saying. They can use these findings to refine their curriculum, develop candidates, etc. So this sounds like they're providing rationale for why programs should locally score. That's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of the rationale.
This is all rationale.
Uh-huh. I think
This is
so.
all built on you are locally scoring, and this
Mhm.
is why you should do it.
Yep.
I think there's more support for local scoring than we're realizing in that room.
I think so. I think folks support the spirit and the intention. And I think the hang up is the thing that we identified earlier is like if this test doesn't change, it's just going to clog all of these barriers for institutions. But I think you're right, the spirit of it and the intention behind it, I do think is supported.
Okay.
Kate, feel free to chime in.
Yes,
You
please.
can. You can if
You
you'd like.
guys are like really in it, and I don't want to interrupt. I think that the idea of mitigating barriers, we're looking for sources, right? And we're looking for exemplars and we're looking for funding. Those are all the barriers for local scoring that we've established. Does this feel a little bit repeaty?
Yes.
A little
Mhm.
bit. I feel like all of these pieces may have already been said. And
Mhm.
I think that's just what happens when we like have gone through this now 7 meetings.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think the intention of sampling, calibration, cross-fertilization came up here. And also I want to say 5.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if you are comfortable moving that, like the pieces of it elsewhere. I don't know that we necessarily needed this one as a standalone one. That's kind of how I'm
Mhm.
like, I also throw everything away that I feel like we don't need anymore. I'm that person. So, if you save the Tupperware after it doesn't have a lid, I'm here for it. Like, I'm here to support you.
I want to throw it away, but I'm also scared of the
Oh,
repercussions
we might
of the
find.
blowback. I want to throw it away, but I'm scared to throw it away. Someone's gonna get mad.
Yeah.
So
And
if,
again, like the working to identify, I feel like that's again super vague.
yeah, but
Because the evaluation of like best practices should fit an accreditation.
yeah,
Like really accreditation and the programs have to fight this out. The CTC does play a role, but I feel like the accreditation has the teeth. The CTC does the announcements, best practice announcements. But again, the accreditors have the teeth. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do think we should pull some of this, implement the last bullet point and add it up above so that we don't lose it. I think it might be better than some of the other rationale.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I think we can speak to, we thought most of this was rationale. So
Mhm.
pulled it out and it's unnecessary as a standalone recommendation.
Could we pull, I agree. And we could pull some of the language in bullet one up to recommendation three,
Yep.
potentially. So we could say in recommendation three, we assume there'd be few costs associated with local scoring, and we recommend that identified additional or like barriers or should be identified and additional costs related to blah 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 be funded or supported in some way. Or does it, or is that just redundant? That like in order to,
Hmm.
I'm trying to also consider what a barrier could be that's not financial. I guess it could be, Kate, you had three. What were the three?
Capacity, right? So like programs don't believe they have the staff that
Right.
can do this and the bandwidth to do that because that's ultimately financial as well,
Yeah.
right? Because faculty cost money.
Yep.
And then things like validity, right? And then also there was another one, but oh, and then just like resources, right? And the CTC, I think, can provide resources. I
Mhm.
think the state, if it has money, who knows, are we in debt? They can provide finances. I don't know what is money. And so if you wanted to like put it in three, I mean, that would make sense. Like the cost related to validity,
Mhm.
resubmissions, calibration, collaboration, like if that's the barrier, then set aside money for the barrier in recommendation three
Mhm.
instead of just giving rationale for it in five.
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
a question about the word few.
That is a problem. Minimal? Does that make it any better?
Just like take it out and like let the number be the number because we don't. um,
Or we could, yeah, we could say there may be costs associated. I don't know.
Anytime you do anything, I mean, it costs money for us to even be on the Zoom right now.
But I would argue actually that there isn't a cost if the TPA component in my course is just another assignment, that it does not actually cost any more for me to give that a score as it would the assignment I'm currently giving a score to.
I think the reporting, you're going to have to factor in the time people take to report the scores and align them. So you're going to have to either have a data management system or they're going to have to pull that. And
That's true.
transitioning to that would, I mean,
It's an
some
extra
computer
step.
person is going to have to make up a UI that can support that
Mhm.
data.
Mhm.
So like, I mean, but I don't know how much that costs. If you said $1,000 and then $1,000,000, both of those numbers would sound right to me. No idea.
Mhm.
Like you know that anytime there's
Mhm.
change costs money.
There's some cost, yeah. I mean, faculty members will have to take time to, shift coursework. People will have, like, I know we'll have to think about our scope and sequence. Like, there will be,
Mhm.
I mean, which I would say we do that as a part of our regular program review or improvement anyways. And
And
Mhm.
it would be a burden to have to do it again for this, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And I can feel the frustration and pushback, even if it's for the right
right.
cause.
Yeah. So there'll be some costs and I think I think between 3 and 5, it's like there will be some costs. Those need to be identified and they need to be addressed or mitigated.
Juliet, are we the only ones still working?
No.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. We're trying.
Yeah, there is one group done, one group very close, two groups very close. Yeah, I
I
just
think
did something.
I think we might not quite be done at 3:15,
Okay.
but definitely 3:30.
Okay. Would you be able to come present on what you have?
Yeah.
We could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like just to throw that out there, like 6, 7 are like very similar in terms of local scoring. 8, I mean, like it's shades of gray of like, hey, we should locally score.
Are we gonna move? Are we done with 5? Are we gonna?
I think there's probably a little bit more to wordsmith and move from 5 up to 3, but I think
Okay.
let's move along.
Okay. That's good.
And if we have a couple of minutes, we can
We'll circle back.
pull it up.
Got it.
Okay, so 6 is talking about getting all of the partners, right, together to collaborate and engage in scoring candidate work. Here's my concern. So if it's truly embedded in the coursework, that
Mhm.
should be happening with the course instructor. But I do still think all of these other people should know about it and be part of it somehow. I'm just not sure actually scoring is the right way.
Mhm.
So in 5, we made recommendations to train specifically mentor teachers and specifically stakeholders on the TPA and like what it means to engage with the TPA.
Mhm.
Um, and so some of those recommendations were in place and they were tied to accreditation.
I wonder if, to that point, Kate, what we really could recommend here is that they are collaboratively engaging together in understanding the scoring of the TPA work, not necessarily scoring it, but they are understanding what that scoring is. I think that makes sense to me that as a supervisor or mentor teacher, you understand how this may be scored for those assessments and can support with in feedback around that.
So I agree with that idea completely, and I do think it's in the other,
Uh-huh.
I think it's in focus area 2, 3,
A 3B,
3B.
where was
So
Because this is specifically saying that they're going to help score too.
yeah.
yes.
And so here's the language. I don't want to mess with your slide. Hang on. The language, I'm going to put it in a comment on
Okay.
the slide because
At
it's
the
kind of a bit much. I wonder, this is the one I was looking at that I don't know if it showed up in your window. Revised to include an orientation to engage candidates, including interns, administrators, mentor teachers, credential candidate, supervising staff, faculty with meaning professional learning opportunities specific to TPA rubric scoring and how to support. Rather than scoring because your suggestion 1, recommendation 1 replaces this.
Yep. If if we assume if we assume the new recommendation 1 is true. If we don't, and we think the assessment will be unchanged, then we may have a need for not community, like our larger sort of program community to be engaged in scoring assessments.
Oh, the
Right.
wrong one.
So if we adopt 1A, we don't need this.
Right, because faculty are the scorers.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna write that up here. Assuming that we don't adopt 1A and we keep with 1, do we want to make any other changes to this? I think it's pretty straightforward.
I think so too.
Okay. So move on to 7.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, this is the comment.
What do you mean?
This is the comment from 5. Remember? Isn't this number 7?
Is that-
Because you moved it down here,
Oh,
disproportionate.
we moved it. We moved it.
Yeah.
We did?
I don't think we did, Kate.
Yeah, it has disproportionate candidate experience, and you copied and pasted it up to 5.
But this was one of the comments from the survey results
Yeah.
from.
So they made something out of it. Yeah.
Oh, somebody else made something. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, this is like echoed in the ones about accreditation so that it'll have teeth, I think was the goal. Like if it's in the accreditation ones, they can't remain accredited without it.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Let me.
I mean, this one, if we want to leave it as is, I think maybe we can leave this one as is. I mean, it
Yeah.
seems actionable.
Mm-hmm. And it assumes that programs are doing 100% of their scoring.
It does. At least it seems to.
And then I don't know, we were talking about potentially like having conversations about how they connect. So this is what they were suggesting for standard 5 in terms of how accreditation would hold them accountable for this recommendation.
To require programs to monitor, gather data.
Because this is like use their findings. And so there's going to be a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's great. So this would just codify way to get to that is by locally scoring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that has like a nice like flow through.
I do too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and since that rationale is here, maybe we don't need to lift it from 5 up to 3 because it's here.
That makes sense to me.
Okay, let's go to 8.
Let's do it.
Oh, we have 3 to do in 7 minutes. Let's see if we can make it happen. Oh, this is just making sure everybody knows how it's scored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think this is great. Making sure everybody who's involved knows what's going on with scoring.
Yep. I think we can leave it as is.
I do too.
All right,
Yeah.
9. Here we go.
Accreditation one.
And this was the design standard one. This one does not get a lot of support.
Oh, that's interesting because my group that I was just in with Ben, we just went over something like this. We're looking for explicit examples from every content area.
So someone was talking about this earlier and they said, "Oh, I acknowledge that these things already happened." Didn't somebody say that?
Well, so the way that it was originally worded was just copied and pasted from the design standard 1G.
Uh-huh.
And so people were trying to explain what it meant, but I'm not sure who the author was and what their actual intent was.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, no, go ahead, Mandy.
I was going to say, I mean, what I'm reading through all of this, I think I'm just seeing that model sponsors are going to need to give materials to the people who are scoring at the local level.
I think so.
I think that's already done.
So, okay, I know what this is.
Okay, tell me.
So Ben works for County Office of Education, and when they are given um, examples, it's one example on lockdown that can only be shared with students. It's only for one particular content area, not all content areas. And so the rationale behind this was we want exemplars of all content areas, all tasks, and that those are sunshined and not under lockdown browsers or anything like that, so that there's transparency around expectations. So right now, his experience is the last several iterations of exemplars had nothing to do with world language. They were all like history. And
Mm.
our lowest scoring is world
And
language.
world
And so like we're kind of playing the I'll know it when I see it game instead of having like explicit like exemplars and near exemplars,
Mm-hmm.
which is absurd because in every other educational practice, we norm
Yep.
and we norm using a real exemplar. So I think the expectation here is that all of it is transparent and shared.
I see. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think the issues of equity definitely were coming about because there's like this like subtext of, people that are in the academic no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of icky.
Yeah. Now, if we're going back to 1A and the people, the faculty and the instructors who are delivering are
Mm-hmm.
actually scoring the assessments that are part of their class.
It would be an educational best practice to have exemplars.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it
Yeah.
would help with calibration and all of those other components.
Mhm.
So yeah. Well,
So leave it as is?
I I think so.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 minutes to have the hardest conversation.
All right, let's do
Oh,
Okay, so in full
oh.
transparency, I'm the one that wrote this.
it. Okay.
So I got in the biggest fight. You can go watch the recording, and they were like, has to be Pearson. Has to.
I know everyone thinks it has to be.
Yeah.
And
Why? Tell me why. I know we don't have much time, but why does it have to be Pearson?
Because every educational platform has a running software. And so if you're going to do any kind of standardized metric, you need the software, and software is proprietary. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you are going to build your own software and your own question bank, it's incredibly expensive and it takes years to develop valid questions
Mm-hmm.
because you're constantly cycling the questions in and out. And so the burden of validity and the burden of just like needing software to organize things means that there's going to be some for-profit out there who runs the software program. So you can self-score. Pearson will help self-score. But the idea of not having a corporate interest run a software company is like not feasible. And we've seen from the CTC website that like we are not super good at
we're
user
not good at
interface.
it. No, we're not.
Like we're not, because we're not software people. And so when you put it that way, you're like, that makes sense. I think if you pull it down to local scoring and make local scoring mandatory, you can still use Pearson as a software company, but you're taking away Pearson doing all the back behind the scenes work that make things invisible. and that
Which is the
disassociate
part
us
that's
from our students.
problematic, right?
Which is kind of problematic because we're really disassociating from students. They said, but how are you valid, right? If you are
Mhm.
doing your right, like that messes with validity. But like we've seen that there's models that do self-scoring and are valid. And so because I was like, you guys, we need to get corporate interest out of this very human space. And they pointed out that like we pay for software, and software is something that is kind of a thing that we have to use.
So, Juliet, can we have 5 more minutes? And we're on 10, so we're on the last one.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's fine because there's one group has a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go tell another group.
Okay. So here's my problem with it all is that
I
we
have a problem.
started with Pearson having a very small role, and
Mhm.
it morphed into this secretive society that gets paid millions of dollars because the work was just too hard for us. And where I have a problem with that is that it just slowly made the burden even bigger for the candidate in this like mysterious activity of they don't even know how to pass.
Mhm.
And so by continuing, I get the software platform. I really do. Um, but I just have no confidence that we roll it all back here, but we still let Pearson have a contract, that we're not going to get right back into the same situation because it's going to be hard for the universities to pick up the burden, to redo their coursework, to figure it out. That's going to be hard. It's going to be a burden. And if we can just slowly re-evolve back into, well, just Pearson will do it, then we're right back where we are now. And I guess that's just really frustrating to me that there's a corporation literally making money off of people who never even make it into the profession because of this barrier.
Mhm. Who
And
was the model sponsor for PACT?
So,
CTC,
okay,
wasn't it?
CTC, because the UCs and the CSUs worked together to create the pact, and then they handed it off to Pearson
Yeah,
because they felt it was too burdensome.
I
But
see.
we didn't pass off the
Yeah.
TPA itself. We
And
still
they
negotiated it
actually
back.
Pearson paid them for it. And so the state got a nice chunk of change because now Pearson does this across the nation, right? And so all the work that, because when you are a professor at a UC or CSU, it belongs to the university. So the university system sold it to Pearson. And now Pearson owns us. Y'all, it's gross. It's gross. But I completely agree. And I'm open to the idea of wording this so that while there may be data management software, that the scoring and the actual engagement with students and credentialing candidates is human and local and is their professors and is their mentors.
If we engage in that way, is Pearson still considered the model sponsor, or could the model sponsor be an institution or CTC, and we leverage Pearson's technology in whatever ways we need to accomplish the things that we need to do? Like, could they not be the model sponsor? And
I feel like Marissa knows because her camera just went
So,
on.
so the model sponsor for I'll speak to Cal TPA is the commission. We are the model sponsor. Pearson, we contract with Pearson to do
Do the software.
certain pieces, but we manage the quality management plan program. We manage the assessment guides. We manage all documents that candidates get, video support that they get. Anything that they push out to candidates is written and signed off by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing as a model sponsor.
Do
Now,
you manage scoring?
so we do manage scoring in certain ways. We go in, we work with and set the requirements for assessors. We have a quality management plan that speaks to how a person is trained, what will happen with assessments. We manage all condition codes, we manage all rubrics, we manage all definitions of words in rubrics. And the only thing that we do not do is pay the assessors, but we do help to hire the lead assessors. And leads are folks that are very deeply ingrained and trained in they work for Pearson and they train new assessors. But let's say a candidate has a concern on something and it's a condition code, certain condition codes, they will come straight to me. I will look at them myself and make a determination. So like I manage Cal APA a lot, so I'll speak to that. Apologies. But like if I get a cycle where something is scripted, I would look at that. So that's what we do more as the model sponsor. Is that clarifying?
Yeah. So then this recommendation really is only speaking to the Ed TPA.
I can't speak to anything about
Right.
EdTPA or anything because I
Right.
don't really have that information. It's truly that the model sponsor, it's for the commission, it's us. It's people that work for the commission. It's managed by the commission. And so when you make that, that determination, and maybe Juliet, maybe you have that better answer. They had a concern about like model sponsor and who's on first. I don't have a whole lot of information for EdTPA, and I know that FAST was something that you very deeply worked with, and so you understand who the model sponsor is for that. But I was just speaking to what the responsibilities of the model sponsor are, and we're not run by Pearson. We tell Pearson what to do. And they don't necessarily like some of the things that we say, but we tell them, you're going to work with us, you're our contractor, you're going to do these things.
So the only one that's a model sponsor that Pearson's a model sponsor for is the Ed TPA.
Right.
Or
And only
Cal TPA, they're just providing the platform where people push their submissions and they're paying the assessors, but you're hiring them.
And one thing I want to highlight too is that all of the assessors for Cal TPA, and I clarified this morning, are from California.
But that's not true for Ed TPA, right?
No.
It's
Correct.
cheaper to hire contractors outside California.
Yeah. I guess so. Being the maker of recommendation number 10, I think that's more what I was trying to speak to was the law says, right, that any accredited institution can create their own, and we want to continue to foster that if someone feels compelled, right? And if we're moving scoring to local, people might feel a little more empowered, which would be great. So that might happen again. And then Cal TPA is the model sponsor, so through the state, right? So through CTC. So this captures those. This is saying we shouldn't have a model sponsor outside of the state commission or our accredited institutions. So we're not spending candidates' money and sending it outside of California.
And currently 2/3 of institutions use Cal TPA.
Right. So it's a small portion that's still using Ed TPA, right?
Can you change that second sentence to reflect that?
Are
Yes.
you all ready to go back?
So soon, Juliet. So soon.
So
How, hey, how do you want me to change it?
I think that second sentence, if you change it to reflect that worldview of we need to really refocus so that we're locally scored by institutions within the state that are in the best interest of the state using available software as needed, right? I
Okay,
think
so
that
go back and say it again.
oh God, I'm already lost.
I know.
So you're gonna have to take out the second sentence unless you're gonna also outlaw for-profit colleges.
Okay.
So if you have this institution, group of it, or the state commission, I mean,
Saying local.
that just basically gets rid of EdTPA.
It does.
That just that sentence gets rid of EdTPA.
Yeah. Which
Okay, so tell us, because you do the job. I'm a teacher. I don't know. What does that do?
I mean, we use EdTPA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But a big part of it is more of a logistical change management choice. Like we have been using EdTPA for so long, the switch would be really it would just cause, it would be a process for us and we would have to change our scope and sequence and we would have, however, I could see a world in which if Cal TPA is the TPA and the assessments are embedded.
Mhm.
All right.